All right, welcome back to the podcast. I have another guest with me today. I have my friend Meg joining me. Meg is a fitness coach, and we are going to talk about all things fitness today and her business and all of the good things. So, Meg, introduce yourself. Tell us all about you.
Hello, I am Meg. I am a health and wellness coach. Like you said, I am coming up on 10 years in the fitness, well, let's say 10 years of the personal training industry. Before that, I did corporate wellness for a few years. And I'm a mom of two little girls. I have a 5-year-old and 3-year-old, and a military wife. So if you think that my life is like normal and not chaotic, it is the complete opposite. It is constantly being pulled in different directions, which sometimes is good and sometimes it's a little crazy. So, I love the fact that I can still have my business, I can still have my passion and be a
Mhm.
mom and be a military wife and still be me. So I've been in business, oh gosh, I think it'll be like 3.5 years this summer, maybe 4. Oh, I have to go back and look.
Yeah,
It's like time just goes by. I'm like, I don't know.
I know it's crazy. Yeah, it goes by so fast. Once you like get into it, it's all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, it's been that much time already.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, what made you transition into starting your business from the personal training?
Yeah, well, I mean, I could even go back before that. So
Hmm.
before I went into personal training, I have my degree in community health and wellness. So more like the education side and helping people literally you're teaching people how to become healthy, how to change their habits. And so I did corporate wellness for a little while. I loved it because I could get into a room and I felt like I was making an impact, but it was really hard for me because most of the people that were coming because their insurance, they had to do it right through their insurance, so there was really no big push behind it. We then got my husband, like I said, he's in the military, we got restationed somewhere else, and my husband encouraged me to shift, and he said, you really love exercise, you really love nutrition, why don't you try your personal training certification? So I said, sure. And he was deployed, and I spent all my time studying. I got a job at a really nice high-end gym in Boston, and it was an all-women gym, and I loved it. I worked there for 7 years. I was able to really make an impact for individual people, which made me feel better because that's what I like. I like to know that, what I'm doing and how I can help somebody is going to be impactful.
Hmm.
And then COVID hit. Just like
Yep.
everybody else, it shifted a lot. So I had a 1-year-old at home. I was pregnant and I was switching everything. I was still working for the gym. I was all virtual. And I had noticed a shift in myself. And I had noticed that because I didn't have to travel, I was driving 45 minutes to and from work. I was working at ungodly hours as a personal trainer. Like Tara, like you work at the
Mhm.
most bizarre hours. I was working split shifts. I was working all the time. And so working virtual, I was able to, serve my clients and also be with my daughter who I needed to be with because it was COVID. The world was
Yeah.
shut down. And one of the big things that I realized was that you can still have the community aspect of what you could get at a gym or in a fitness class if you build it. And so that was something that I did. I really wanted to make sure that the ladies that I was working with who were used to seeing each other still had some way. So still doing like the virtual classes and they could talk. I opened up my Facebook group and we just started having conversations and sharing pictures and recipes because we were all at home. And I really loved it. And I love the fact that I was able to, like I said, be with my daughter. And I learned that I started to learn a different approach in my own wellness journey. And it was a blessing, even though obviously COVID is not a blessing, but in the retrospect of like how I was able to handle it, it was what
Hmm.
I needed to grow as a professional and as a mom and as a person. So, anyways, I had looked back and I was talking to a lot of my clients, and I was like, you're doing so much better now versus when
Mhm.
you were coming into the gym. What in the hell is going on? Like, what is different? Like, I honestly could not figure it out
Yeah.
until clients started to tell me, like, hey, Meg, like, I'm talking to you on a regular basis. You're like,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that's the thing when you work in the gym, you know, you're training a lot of clients, and it's a in-person session, so it's like a one and done type thing. And I know in reality that's not how it should be, but
Yeah.
that's how it becomes because you get so burnt out because all you're doing is session after session after session. And you know, I had realized being at home I had the time, and I was checking in on clients, I was reading things, I was researching things, I was able to build this group and have conversations with people.
Mhm.
And I knew that we were going to be being stationed somewhere else again. And I was like, I don't want to go back to a gym. I don't want to be told how many clients I need to have. I don't want to be told how to train. um, I really enjoyed the mindset coaching piece of it. And I loved being able to intertwine those two. And when I was in the gym, like I said, it was more just get them in the gym, give them their workout, and pray that they're going to do the rest of their stuff on their own the rest of the
Yeah.
week until I saw them next week. So I had that shift. I started my business, and I was able to, you know, have that transition from moving from Boston to Philly where we got stationed. And, you know, obviously it's challenging, you know, moving is challenging, having kids is challenging,
Yeah.
having a business was challenging, but the one constant that I was able to have with me was connection. It didn't
Yeah.
matter where I was. It didn't matter if I had my dumbbell set up. I was able to connect with my clients. I was
Mhm.
able to, like, in real time help them. And so for me, that's the real thing that keeps me going in my business is the fact that I know my life is not stable. I
Yeah.
know I'm going to move potentially some other time. I know that my kids are just growing and life is going to get even more chaotic.
Yeah.
But I do know that now I have the business that I want, and I
Mhm.
can work the way that I want. I can serve my clients the way that I want.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it helps keep the passion, because when you don't have the passion, you can't serve. And as a trainer, you also are part-time therapist, you
Yeah.
part-time life coach. Like you're taking on a lot of responsibility for clients. So to be able to just, like I said, have the way that I work and the way that I want to work be right for me in my life, it helps me serve my clients much better.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like that is just the most important thing. I think, especially having your own business, is being able to have it be your way because all of us have lives that look different. And it relates to even what you're doing with your clients. Like, you would never give one of your clients or all of your clients the exact same program. It relates in so many different ways. Like, you can't just do like this one size fits all thing and think that everybody's just going to be able to do the same thing. It has to be able to work for you. And you have to be able to work, like, build out a thing that actually works for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that for me, even my husband has said it too, is like, you know, if you can stay passionate about what you do, it's not a hobby for me. It's something that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
If you can stay passionate about it, then it's going to work.
Hmm.
You're going to have to change it often because that's what we have to do in life, but
Yeah.
it will still work because that passion will still be there.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. I believe that so much. And even though it is like, yeah, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Like, it is definitely hard at times. Like, there's no other way to say it. It's like you own a business, you're building a business. Like, it's hard. But if you have that passion behind it, that I think is what really makes the difference.
Absolutely. Well, you think about it when you talk about with clients, right? When
Hmm.
they're struggling to stay consistent, when they're struggling to push through the hard parts because life decides to throw them something that they weren't expecting,
Hmm.
always say, what is your why?
Yeah.
Why do you want this? What is this going to do for you? How is this going to change? And that's what I do when I come back, when I, question myself, like, why do I want to do this? This is so hard. And it's like, oh yeah, that's why you want to do it. And I think it's really important because you will go through, just like in a fitness journey, you are going to go through ups and downs. There's going to be times where you just have to do the bare minimum, figure out what your non-negotiables are, and do
Mhm.
those things consistently until you get to a point where you're like, okay, I can do one more thing. Okay,
Yeah.
now I can do one more thing. Okay,
Mhm.
here we are again. I'm happy. Like it's such a bizarre roller coaster.
Yeah, it totally is. And it takes time to figure out what exactly is going to work and what the thing is going to be for you. And it really, it takes a lot of shutting out the bullshit and the noise online, but you have to keep reworking things and just figure out what actually works for you and not pay attention to everything else that's going on.
Right. And I think, you really have to have the mindset, and I'm doing air quotes if you're watching it on YouTube, because like mindset is a buzzword, but it really is like you have to be in that mindset that like this is always going to be shifting and adapting.
Mhm.
There's going to be ups and downs. It is, we always think everything is going to be just this is the way it is, and it's not. So if you can come into your business, if you can come into your wellness journey with that mindset of like it's not always going to be rainbows and butterflies, then you will be able to sit in that discomfort and you might sit there for longer than you want, but you won't give up. And that's
Exactly.
what I think is really important. That's what's helped me in my business is, okay, this sucks. I
Yeah.
don't want to do this. What am I doing? And then I use that as like, okay, well, this sucks. This isn't working because it's not working for me right now because my life is different. My schedule is different. My husband's deployed. I'm home by myself. Like, how can I just make this work for what's my right now? And that's
Yeah.
made a huge difference.
Yeah, and it's always like working working around how do you not stay in that stuck? Because there's always a way to get out of it. It's just not staying stuck there. And I know that like you work with your clients tons on that too. Like you talk about the mindset piece in terms of fitness so much too. Like what would be in terms of that, what is the one thing that you find people struggle with the absolute most with your fitness clients?
Most of the time it's that all or nothing, that perfectionist mindset. And again, this taps into my business too, because I
Mhm.
am, and I like to say I'm a recovering perfectionist because I don't think it'll ever go away.
Yeah.
I don't think our mindset barriers, our mindset issues ever go away. We will always be triggered, again, another buzzword, but we will always be triggered back into it. And so for me, I've been working with some clients for 8 years, and I am still over time, not as often, would thank gosh, but I still have to have those conversations when those mindset issues creep in. It's like, no, that all or nothing mindset is not serving you. It's
Mhm.
causing you more stress. It's creating overwhelm. It's creating this picture in your mind that is not real.
Yeah.
And so when you can sit there and say, all right, well, I can't get in all of these things today. So what can I do?
Yeah.
You're empowered and you freaking go ahead and you do those. But when you sit there and say, oh my God, I can't do any of this stuff today, you don't even try. And so for
Exactly.
me, my biggest thing for clients is like, again, I am a recovering perfectionist. I would be that person that would be walking around the fucking house like an idiot just to hit their step goal. Like, what
Mhm.
purpose is that serving other than re like rehashing this perfectionist mindset, right? Like,
Yep.
it's not actually making me learn anything. But and I'm going to use myself here as an example, real quick, as I start to work through my perfectionist as my all or nothing mindset, I've learned over time that I can hit the step goal if I actually intentionally take my damn dog for a walk
Mhm.
once a day, because that is a good 3,000 steps and I do
Yeah.
move around. However, if I don't hit that step goal at the end of the day, I now look back and be like, that's okay. I got in a walk. I got in some yoga. I found a time to do my movement and look at all these other things that I did. And
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people is like we just fixate on, and we've been taught this, that to get the gold star, to get the A, you got to check off all the boxes. To
Hmm.
get that promotion, you have to be the best there is. And it's like, nope, you
Yeah.
could suck at a few things, but that's
Yeah.
okay, because if you're intentionally working and doing other things, you will continue to move forward. So that to me is like the biggest thing that I work with clients
Hmm.
is like looking at the bigger picture, like zooming out and saying, okay, this is the situation that I'm in right now. This is what I would really like to do, but what can I do?
Yeah.
And when I can also take a step back and let my clients figure that out for themselves,
Hmm.
it's more empowering for them, because that's something that I've been learning as a coach. And again, I've been a coach for almost 10 years, is that I don't want to come in and just give you the answer,
Yeah.
because that doesn't solve anything. So
Hmm.
if I can start to teach you that, like, hey, when you feel this way, when this is coming up, and you take a step back and you do this process, you're empowering yourself.
Hmm.
You're allowing yourself to take control and get out of that overwhelm. And that I think is the biggest thing, is like that all or nothing, that perfectionist
Yeah.
mindset. Um, and I think honestly, it just is because of the society that we live in. We've been taught, like I said, for so long that
Hmm.
you need to show up. And I always laugh, like, I never missed a freaking day of school. I had to have that perfect attendance. And what the hell did that teach me? That taught me to sit there. Like, that didn't teach
Yeah.
me anything. It didn't allow me to connect to myself. And again, like, this even went into college. Like, I never missed a day of college unless I
Oh, I
really
miss
had
so
to,
many.
because like you're like, I
I
know, I'm like,
missed so many.
I'm nuts. But like I was like, I can't do that. The teacher's gonna like, and it just spiraled there. And so now again, I'm going to be 34 this summer. I've been a coach for almost 10 years. I have kids and I move a lot. I've
Hmm.
realized life is not perfect. Things are always shifting. And you know what? There's times where it's really important to honor your mental and emotional health. And sometimes
Hmm.
that means not checking off all the boxes, because guess
Yeah.
what? If I got 3 boxes checked versus 5, I feel so freaking good. And so that's what I want my clients to feel. I want them to feel good even when they don't check off all the boxes, because guess what? They intentionally made the effort to check off some.
Exactly. And I feel like sometimes, we look at what we need to do in a day and we just like, we pile so much on. And some of it is just unnecessary. And we put so much pressure on ourselves to get so much done when we actually don't need to. And that causes the overwhelm because then it's like, well, I have to get all of it done. And it's like, do you really though? Do
And
you
it's also not
really though?
productive,
I know.
because I don't know how many times I'll relate this one to business. I don't know how many times I've sat down and been like, you got to write an email, you got to make a post, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I've gone through the list and I've done all those things. And guess what? Just to have to go back and redo it all over again, because I was just doing things. I was doing. I
Yeah.
wasn't actually taking the time and feeling and putting the real effort behind it for it to be something that I was proud of to put out, right?
Hmm.
And so that's the other thing too. It's like you have to look at this as a way of like, is checking off all the boxes giving you the results that you want?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah, like prioritize the intention behind it. It's all of those things. And it's really like, yeah, just thinking about, do, do you really have to do it? Like, why put all of this pressure on yourself? I think that, yeah, we put so much pressure and it's just unnecessary. Like, I feel like, well, you've laughed at it before. Like, I feel like this is a good example. I go online all the time, don't give a shit what I say, what I look like. I screw up all the time and I still post it anyways. It just like doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. know how many times in the last couple weeks have I posted something on Instagram and I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I proofread that? And why why did autocorrect think that was the word? And old Megan
And
would go back and delete everything and
yeah.
redo it. And now I kind of laugh about it because they are funny, and this is a part of it. We have to have fun and we have to laugh and we have to learn. And so for me, the learning curve for me was like, actually take 2 seconds to read what you wrote before you hit send or hit post, because then you can avoid some of that stuff. But at the same time, like, it is what it is. And I
Mhm.
talk about this on my Instagram stories because I also want the people who are there to understand, like, I see that this is a mistake. I see that this is not right, but I'm not going to remove it because I am a recovering perfectionist. I am working at accepting
Mhm.
that this isn't perfect. But guess what? It still gets the message across. I still showed up. I still did the damn thing.
Yeah.
And so I try to share this on my story as my own healing. Like, it's like, for me, it's also healing to say
Yeah.
this out loud. But yeah. And I think, social media is a great thing, but it's also been really challenging since
Mhm.
COVID, because this is a place where everybody's going,
Yeah.
right? It's a place where, as a business owner, you're going to promote yourself. This
Yeah.
is where you're coming out to show people, this is who I am. This is how I could help you. This is my experience. This is this. And then you got those other people, and I'm going to call myself out. I go on the internet twice a day as a business owner, and then as the mom who's like trying to like I don't even know the word I'm trying to say, but like de-stress at the end of the day,
Yeah.
where I'm doom scrolling, right? But at that point, I'm looking for more fun things. So, sometimes you can get on the wrong track, and all of a sudden you're now being like, what am I doing? Why am I not doing that? Why is she doing that? Should I be doing this? Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I'm not going outside and getting sunlight 10 minutes into my day and putting my feet in the grass and then going
Yeah.
in a cold plunge and then dipping my face in an ice bowl. Like, you start it in and that's the thing that I really want. See, it's funny. But this is
I
like
have
one
a
of those
funny
things
story
I
about that
really
though.
want, as I'm learning to find my own voice in social media
Mhm.
as my business and as Meg, is to call this stuff out, because, like, you don't got to do all this stuff to be
No.
happy and healthy, but you feel like you have to because it's constantly in your face. And let me tell you, I tried an ice bath on my face once. I had the worst brain freeze of my life. My
Sebastian
client
does
was
it. It's
laughing
like
and she was like, does this really work? I was like, I don't freaking know. And so I was like, let me be the guinea pig for her. And I did it. And I was like, don't do it unless you really want a brain freeze.
Sebastian claims that it does. My son,
Yes.
he's like,
Yes.
yeah, no, mom, it does. It works. And I need to do it to clear up my acne. And I'm like, okay, well, you do that and report back. I will not be.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Ugh.
where we're at with that. So he
Ugh.
goes and does it, and I do not.
Yeah. But
But I
yeah.
know, like, there's so much shit online that you could get sucked into all of the time, and it's just like, no. I'm lucky I don't actually doom scroll. The only thing that I scroll for is I will look for trending real audio, and even that half the time annoys me because I will see things and I'll be like, "Oh, why?
Oh,
Why are we
I love it.
here?"
I love it. It's like, oh, I send like my friends and we all have these messages, and to me, they're just more like the funny things, as like more mom stuff, like your
Yeah.
toddlers are doing. I'm like, oh my God, this is my life right now.
Mhm.
So I like it for the relatability piece of it.
Yeah.
But when I am scrolling in terms of my business, it really messes with my head. And that's where I don't doom scroll business things. I specifically, if I'm doom scrolling, it's like recipes and funny things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a much better one. I would say that that's a good tip, actually.
Yeah.
And that's one thing actually when I work with people, I will tell them like specifically, I will give them that homework. Like you're not allowed to actually scroll on the internet. Like you actually have to take yourself off. you have to
Mhm.
mute certain people because I can see it getting into their head and I can see it going the wrong way. And they're, really starting to judge themselves and
Oh, I
be
did that last
unsure.
week. I was in my head. We
Yeah.
talked about this before the podcast. I was all of a sudden questioning, again, as a business owner, you do this all the time. You question, what am I doing? Is anybody like see me? Does anyone understand me? Like,
Yep.
and you get in your head,
Yeah.
and I realized it was because of just different accounts that I had seen on my posts, on my reels,
Yeah.
scrolling. And so I went through and I muted, I unfollowed a
Yeah.
bunch of people. And I also too would realize, okay, again, this is a learning curve. I can't scroll at certain times of the day because I will get sucked in and I will spend more time than I need
Yeah.
to. And also, I won't do it after my kids go to bed.
Hmm.
Right. So, it's just, again, it's learning about how is this thing, how is this habit, because that's what it is,
Yeah.
affecting me.
Yeah. Well, and it's, really important too to think about like when you're going through this and you're seeing other accounts, you don't know their whole backstory and also what they're posting. Like, does that even apply to you? And when they're posting these things about like their success, is that really what success means to you though? Like, is that how you would want to see your life? Like, I always think back to that and be like, but is that what I would really want? Most of the time, no.
And
Like,
that's what I will say if a client, and I will tell you an example. A client came to me, a new client came to me recently, and she was like, this is what I want to look like. And
hmm.
like personally for me, like I am more of that holistic coach. I want you
Yes.
to, yes, get the body that will make you confident, make you feel happy. But I want this to be sustainable. I want this to be a lifelong journey. I would
Yeah.
love for this to be a healing journey where you actually use wellness to regulate your mental and emotional health, right? Wellness is meant to not put stress on your life and
Yeah.
to overburden you, but yet it
Yeah.
does. And so, in particular, this person came to me and she showed me a couple different things, and she's like, I really love her style of exercise because that's what I do, right? I do custom design fitness programs.
Yeah.
So people will come to me and be like, this is what kind of program I would love. And I get that. So then we'll ask the questions like, well, what can you do? And the one question that I ask all the time is like, okay, look at this person.
Hmm.
What are they doing to look like that?
Exactly.
What, like, because, like, yes, there's other things play into this, right? Genetics, age, blah, 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 all that stuff.
Hmm.
However, we all know that your habits and what you're doing also plays a huge role into this. So, can you realistically do what that person is doing every single day for the rest of your
Yes.
life? And if the answer is no, then let's look at some of those things that you do like that did appeal to you and let's apply that. And if from there we can switch and really truly start to tune it into you. But it
Hmm.
sometimes it can become really hard because we have this idea of like, oh, I love this person, I love the way they look, I love this
Yeah.
style, I want to be like that. But then when you actually think like, can I do that? Do I actually want to do that? No.
Exactly.
Like, and that
Probably
was a
not.
big thing for me when I was going through my fitness journey was
Mhm.
I wanted to be the bikini model. I wanted to do
Yeah.
this. I wanted to look fit. I wanted to have abs. I wanted to have this.
Yeah.
But was I really willing to give up the fact that I couldn't sit on my porch and have a beer once or twice a week in the summer with my husband and enjoy myself? No.
Exactly.
And so I think too, like when we think about like, what do you want? What do
Hmm.
you not what does that person have? What do you want?
Yeah.
Can be really empowering to help you kind of disassociate a little bit from these
Yeah.
fantasies.
And that's like, that is so important. And from my background too, like I don't think people really understand when you're looking at these people on Instagram and you're pulling these pictures and saying like I want to look like that. Half of these people don't even look like that in real life. For
Right.
one thing, and the things that they have to do to actually look like that, they are not telling you the full story. And I can absolutely guarantee you that that is the case because there are many that take drugs to look like that. You would never want to have their eating habits. You would never want to have their lifestyle. Like there are things that you would not want to do in order to look like that. It's
Right.
totally
And so
unrealistic.
I use that example for my client again, right? This person that she was showing me, she definitely does. She looked beautiful, by the way,
Hmm.
but she definitely she does a lot of bikini contests as well. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, like, and I went through with her too, and I was like, when you are, because again, a lot of people don't understand this, like the bikini world and the weightlifting and all this stuff, right?
Yes.
Those people who do that are constantly going through cycles. They cannot maintain that body that you see
Yeah.
all the time. And again,
Hmm.
that's the missing piece that a lot of people don't understand, because they
No.
constantly, like, they'll post a picture from like a couple months ago or
Yep.
whatever, like, right? And you have to think about it. Like, people that are doing these types of things, they are going through their own cycles. They cannot sustain that look,
Hmm.
that habit, that routine.
Yeah.
And so if you as a person want to do bikinis, amazing. You
Yeah.
can do that and you can go through those cycles. But if you don't want to keep going through cycles, and that's my big thing, most of my clients, they don't want to keep going through
No.
cycles. They want to
Yeah.
find something that can work and fit into their life. And yes, you will have to adapt and change often. And I
Hmm.
say this to people because that's something they don't like to do, right?
Yeah.
But you're going to have to change and adapt often. But if you can look at it as a place of like, I can sustain this, this is going to make me feel good, this is something that I would actually want to do, then you are actually going to work for it. Because if you
Yeah.
keep looking at the body type of who you want to be and how you want to look, you're constantly going to be through the ringer of all these
Yeah.
cycles.
Yeah. You're going to be disappointed because it is not. I've competed. I know what it's like. I've been through preps. And that is not something that you can just like decide to do one day. Like you have to actually be very, very committed to doing it. You have to change your lifestyle and you have to, like, if you really want to do it, like, you have to be fucking all in to do that.
And
And
again, I'm not your coach that's all
no,
in, or you know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's,
well, and it is not something that's a long-term lifestyle. Like, that is not what it is.
mm-hmm.
And it was something that was very weird because I did mine when I was still a fitness coach, and I did not love posting pictures of myself at that time because I did not want to give anyone the idea that this was sustainable. And I would always give that caveat, like, I am prepping for a competition. Like, this is not something that is sustainable. Like, you cannot do this long term. This is not, don't look at me right now as like the goal. That's not what
Yeah.
this is.
And that's something that recently, within the last year, thinking about this mindset and thinking about, how do I want to serve my clients? How do I want to serve my community?
Hmm.
Most of the women that are in my community are the all or nothing mindset, are the
Hmm.
perfectionists, are the ones who struggle to stay consistent when shit hits the fan, right?
Yeah.
So I realized a couple years, a year and a half, 2 years into my business, that, wait a second, why are you doing challenges?
Hmm.
And I was doing challenges as a business strategy to get people into my space.
Yeah.
However, it wasn't helping these people, because they would kick ass. These people would do amazing. They would do awesome in these challenges. But
Yeah.
then what happened? They went back to their old ways. Maybe they learned something. Maybe they stuck to something. But
Hmm.
99.9% of the time, nobody could ever keep up with the challenges. And
Yeah.
so for me, that's why I'm like, okay, this is my business. I don't have to do challenges.
Yeah.
If I don't think that they're good for my clients who I want to work with, I'm not going to do them. So I
Mhm.
stopped doing challenges. And every now and again, people will ask me, "Hey, you're going to do a challenge?" And I have to explain to them, "No,
Yeah.
sorry, I
Nope.
am not." Because also, like, I want your life is already a freaking challenge. Why do you need another challenge? Like,
Mhm.
come on. And so, I want to teach people that there is a way to enjoy the process, to get the goal, to
Mhm.
become disciplined, to become consistent without a challenge to
Yeah.
jumpstart that, right? So there's no challenges in my area. 75 hard, see you later. Like F
Oh, hell
that.
no.
No,
Nope.
thank you.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. The fitness space is wild,
It's
to say the
challenging.
least. There's a lot of crazy shit out there.
Yeah. I think the thing too is like for me, like I really want to hone in like fitness and eating well and sleeping and doing those things are so good for your mental and emotional
Mhm.
health. And guess what? When you can take care of that, you can fucking go show up and be the mom that you want
Yeah.
to be. You can be the business owner that you want to be. You can be the employee that you want to be. But if you do not take care of yourself, you can't be that. And you are always looking like, how can I be that? How can I be that?
Mhm.
And a lot of coaches, and I have to say I was this coach in the beginning of my career. I was that coach that was a hard ass that was like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Why can't you do this? Just do this. What do you mean you can't get up at 4 a.m.? What do you mean you can't go to the gym at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m.? What do you mean? Like, no, okay, let's scale it down now, Meg. Like, and that was again, that's where like
Yeah.
that COVID thing kind of helped me because it allowed me to realize, like, oh shit, like there are so many more constructive ways
Mhm.
to get to the end goal and to help support somebody. Because at the end of the day, I am your support system. I am your, and I always laugh, you always laugh. I am literally your GPS in the car. I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you when there's how to get around the detour. I'm going to help you. I'm not going to drive the car for you. And I'm also not going to sit there beeping my horn at you until you fucking move. You got to
Yeah.
do it for yourself, but I'm going to be there for you the entire time. And that was a big shift that I had again in my coaching was being a hard ass goes nowhere.
Yeah.
It just makes someone feel like shit.
Yeah.
And making someone feel like shit isn't productive because guess what? They can find another coach that is going to be like, hey, I understand what you're going through. So instead of doing 4 workouts this week because your week is chaotic, what
Yeah.
can you do? Great, you can do 2 workouts. How awesome does that feel that you could just do 2 workouts? And now look at that. You're at the end of the week. You got 2 workouts in. Oh my God, you actually got bonus walks in because you felt like, hey, I have the time. And
Yeah.
you realize that movement is movement and you start taking those opportunities to do it. So, that's the other fun thing I think as I go through coaching and
Mhm.
continue on, I can kind of also adapt how I'm coaching for my clients.
Yeah. And I think that that's just so much better because then people aren't beating themselves up every single week. Because what starts to happen is like when there's such a rigid approach and you can't ever follow it, well, then you always feel like you're losing and you're getting
Yeah.
nowhere.
And here's
So,
the thing that I've learned, right? Everybody responds differently.
yeah.
So if you respond by getting yelled at or ashamed, then there's coaches out there for you, right?
Yeah, there are.
There is a coach for everybody.
Hmm.
You just as the person who's looking for help, who's looking for support, you have to understand how you work and how you want to be supported. And so for me, like if you want me to be a hard ass, I'm not going to be that person. If you want someone who's going to be compassionate but also encourage you to do the small things, I'm going to be that person for you. And I
Hmm.
think that's the one really cool thing about being your own business owner is you can coach, you can do your thing the way that you want, and you know that you're going to help the people who are with you the right way. And you also know that if you can't help someone, that they can find help somewhere else. And that's something that for a long time I would just coach the way that the person wanted me to coach.
Mhm.
It burned me out.
Yeah.
It burned me out. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh my God. And so once I let go of that idea of like, I need to coach this way to just keep that person to get the money to, no, it
Yeah.
wasn't about the money for me. It was about, I want to be the transformational coach for this person to
Mhm.
have a happier and healthier life and to actually like exercise and nutrition, right? To an
Mhm.
extent, because we all hate it at some points.
Yeah.
But that was my big thing that I was like, you know what, Meg? You don't have to change who you are as a coach. There
Yeah.
are other coaches out there, and somebody will find that coach if that's who they're looking for.
Yeah, and I think that that's so empowering, like, for you as a business owner and for your clients to know
I
that,
really
like,
had to let it go.
they have you as the right coach for them, and you are doing in your business what feels so good for you instead of just doing something to, try to do it and run this business just because. But you're actually doing what feels really good for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. And I think it's just really important to not get discouraged as a business owner because you do.
Hmm.
You go through the doubt, you go
Yeah.
through the imposter syndrome. And if there's one thing that I've learned is that when you start to feel that, that is your sign to sit in it and
Hmm.
say, why am I feeling this way? Because that just means that you need to make some sort of shift to be back to where you need to go. Um, and I think that's really, really important. And I know we've talked about too, like, in a business, yes, there are things you have to do, right?
Hmm.
You got to charge your clients on the right date. You have to have your systems in place
Yeah.
for your emails. You have to have all these things. But the one thing that I've learned, and specifically that I've learned with working with you, is that yes, I have to have those things, but I don't have to have them in a way that's the exact same as another person.
Yeah.
Right? I can build my own systems that work for me and what I want, right?
Hmm.
And so I think at the end of the day, everybody who's listening to this needs to remember if you're a business owner,
Yeah.
you decided to be a business owner because something happened where you were like, no, I want to do this differently.
Hmm.
Like, I think everyone just gets, oh, I want time and I want all the money. I want to travel. I want to do all this. Yes, that's great. But there has to be some reason why you decided that I'm going to start a business because I
Yeah.
want to do this. And I think that's really important to remember because you can forget that sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. It's like, exactly. I say that so often. It's so important to go back to that and just remember that deeper why, because it does go past the money and, you know, not working at all and all of the time freedom and stuff. Like, you are actually doing something to work with clients. Like, what was that initial passion for you? Why are you wanting to do this? And only you can answer that for yourself. There's no one else that can answer that for you. It's no amount of coaches, it's no amount of masterminds or trainings or any other thing that can answer that for you. You are the one that can answer that for yourself. And it's true. If you're feeling this like doubt or imposter syndrome or whatever, you have to analyze that for yourself and really find out what is going on there and how you can work through that.
And I'm going to piggyback off that real quick before we end because
Mhm.
I think too, one huge struggle that I've had adjusting to being a business owner is as a perfectionist, as like it always goes back to this, but like I've always lived by what somebody else tells me to do, what my
Yeah.
boss tells me to do, what my expectations are. And so when I transitioned, I fucking was so lost because I all of a sudden there was no rules. There are rules, but there's no rules. And it's like
Yeah.
And so, it can get really overwhelming because you just don't know what to do with your time and where to be putting your energy and what should I be doing. And so you look to all these experts and awesome coaches to tell you what to do. And that's great because you can learn skills and you can learn what actually needs to be in place for a successful business.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is you have to remember who you are and
Yeah.
how you operate as a person,
Yeah.
because that was something that I missed for a while there. Is like I was just doing everything that all these coaches were telling me that this is what I need to do to have my business be successful. And yes, it is successful and I am doing great and I'm loving it. But I'm loving it even more now because I'm like, this is me, Meg. This is how I want to do
Mhm.
it. This is how I want my voice to be heard. And it makes the process a little bit more fun.
Yeah. Yeah,
If you go on my
exactly.
Instagram, you'll find my stories and you'll be like, this woman is tapped, but I have fun.
No, it's amazing. It's so good. Sorry, my cat's being. This happens every time. My cat goes psycho whenever I'm on something that I don't want her around for. So
Of
that's good.
course.
Anyways, okay, so where can people find you so that they can all go to your stories and watch everything?
Oh gosh, you'll have some fun. So you can find me on Instagram. It's the at Meg DeSalvo_fit. And through that, you can just hit the lovely link tree that's on there. It'll bring you directly to my email list. I'm just revamping things as we go. I'm figuring out what kind of email systems work for me. I really like Mindset Mondays. I like to also share some wins of my own and clients. And I also just I don't really have a structure there. However, I've heard and everyone loves that when they open their emails, they get something out of it, whether it's a laugh, whether it's a, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in this struggle, or it's a tip to help them. So you can get
Mhm.
on that email list. I'm not going to tell you when you get emails because, like I said, it's all over the place, but you'll get an email. I
Yep.
promise you. And my Facebook group is in there. It's a private Facebook group. I treat my Facebook group more like a diary. And by
Mhm.
that, I mean, I want people to understand who I am as a coach and as a real person, that I struggle and I share my struggles a lot in there. For example, my husband was deployed, or he was in training the entire month of January. I was home by myself with two sick kids, snowstorm,
Yep.
shoveling, broke a damn snowblower. I had to do it and run a business
January was a
and be with
hard
my
one for
clients.
you.
Oh my God, it was a disaster. But I shared this on my stories, or in my Facebook group, excuse me. And it's really nice to shine a light. Just because I'm a health and wellness professional, just because I love it, does not mean that I don't struggle. So in there, it's kind of like, these are what's going on. I also like to go in there and do lives because I do work with clients all the time and they all seem to have similar issues. So it's another place for me to come in and highlight, like, if you're feeling this is what you can do. And I like to share because I do this too, get so bored with like meal ideas. And so I'll just share in there some meal ideas, other people will. So that place is more of like calm. It's more of a community. It's more to feel like, okay, I'm not alone.
Yeah,
And it's fun. I love it. And yeah, so Instagram, Facebook group, email list, and someday a podcast, because if you can't tell, I really enjoy talking. So there will
amazing.
be a podcast. I am just looking in and exploring that as my new adventure.
Love it. All right. Well, I will link it all in the thing description on YouTube and in the show notes on the podcast. I know I'm like, what is that thing called? That's what it's called, the description. So it will all be linked in there. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. And that is it. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
me
you.
today. This has been great. And that is all. Catch you in the
That
next
is
one.
all.